dacă avem și dintre tineri cu noi. Yeah, Paul is here. Bianca is here. So yeah. Find the best places in yeah. Here we are. Dorin, îmi spui când e gata. Okay then. It's time to start. I would like you to invite you to stand up, and Paul, please lead us in prayer. Amen. Please be seated. Welcome, everyone. It's a new start, September 2025. As I shared with you both at the, sometimes in the summer and now again in the past week through the poster, the plan for this fall is to read together The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt. I'm not sure how to pronounce his family name. It's not an English name, so it will go with Haidt. What is the reason for choosing this book and not another? Let me tell you a few things about the author and a few things about the content of the book. Jonathan Haidt is not a Christian. He's an atheist, a researcher in the area of society, psychology, culture, with several books that are well-known, used everywhere. What we will do, we will use his research and his findings to help us to find an answer to the problem, and then we will complete it with scripture, theology, because in chapter 8, he does something that comes close to that. Here is the roadmap for the fall. Today is 20th of September, the surge of suffering and its explanation, and the first Saturday of October, the decline of play-based childhood, then the first Saturday in November, 1st of November, the rise of phone-based childhood, and on the 6th of December, that's the last meeting, practical spiritual solutions. I will have this roadmap in every one of our meetings, and we will know exactly where we are. The book is pretty substantial. If Alessia can just, raise it up just to scare everyone. So, yeah, that's the task ahead. Of course, I assume that you know a little bit about it, but if you don't have the book, I will make everything I can for you to be a full beneficiary of its ideas. So if you did not read it, it's not a problem. So you stay, and you are very welcome to stay. And I will explain the content. I will start with a personal observation. I started teaching at college level in 1995, full-time. In those times, I never heard about anxiety in the classroom, ever. 5 years after that, 2000, the same. 2006, our year when we moved over here, again. I started teaching in secular schools in 2010, 2011. Almost nothing. Starting with 2017, 18, and all the way to now, in various places, at various degrees, anxiety is prevalent. This is not a judgment of any kind, but it is a fact. And everybody asks the question, why? And we are having this in North America, we are having this in Europe, we are having this almost everywhere in the West, especially in the countries that have a certain level of civilization and access to technology. So that is what triggered our author, Jonathan Haidt, to study the problem. Why? Before I will give you his results, let me define the most important term. What is anxiety? When I was 15, 17, I never heard about it, I didn't know about it. Now it's everywhere. Anxiety is related to fear, but it's not the same thing. The Diagnostic Manual of Psychiatry defines fear as the emotional response to real or perceived imminent threat, whereas anxiety is anticipation of future threat. If I rephrase all of that, technical definition in popular language, it goes like this. What if something bad will happen? What will happen to me? And you have that question on your mind in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening, and again, and again, and again, every day. You live with this anticipation that something beyond your control, something that is not good, may happen to you or to those around you. One of the best ways to illustrate this is the following example. If you leave home for your BFF, you know what BFF means, right? Your best friend forever. If you leave home without it, how is the following hour? Nothing works, right? Almost panic. What if my mom doesn't know where I am? Let me tell you stories. How was when I was 10 or 12 and I went out of the house early in the morning and I came back late in the evening and nobody was in any kind of panic. You remember those days? Yeah. Playing in the dust, rolling in mud, that kind of childhood. That is how we pulled through, to use, contemporary technical language again. But those times are long gone, long gone. And we'll start with this chart. Mental illness among college students. Now, let me add a side note here. My generation, when we hear about mental illness, we are thinking about people who are cuckoo. So, the mind doesn't work, you cannot communicate with that person in any way, shape, or form. He is on another planet, and he needs to be, put in a special place. And depending on your city, you already know what kind of hospital that is, and we had so many jokes, bad jokes about that. But here, mental illness is not at that level. It starts with schizophrenia. You can see the line is pretty consistent, starting 2008, going all the way to 2018. Very small change. You go a little bit up, substance abuse or addiction, a little bit of increase, but not too much. And then anorexia, bipolar, ADHD, and from there up, everything is through the roof. Depression, you see the level of at 2008, and then 10 years later, almost double, 106% increase. Anxiety, even worse, 134% increase. And everybody asked the question, what happened in the world at that time? No world wars, no major cataclysmic events. What happened? So that's one set that shows the surge of suffering. And here is another. A deep dive into anxiety only. Anxiety prevalence by age. People of my age, 50 plus, they are, nothing touches them. It's not a show off, but it's a fact of life. Yeah. We are forged, and at some times you are rock solid all the way to the last breath. Everything. You can manage everything. As you go below that, people at 35, 49, 52% increase. And then 26, 34, 103% increase. And people between 18 and 25, 139 increase. The younger you are, should I say it? The weaker you are. Why? Why? You had everything in the world, right? All the conditions. And this is how the parents, 50 plus, look at your life. I gave you everything. I worked day and night, 2 shifts. I brought you to US to have the best possible, and you are barely going through. Why? That's the answer. That's the question Jonathan Haidt asks. So we go from bad to worst. Suicide rates for younger adolescents. The chart starts in 1982. It goes all the way to 2020. An increase of 167%. With girls and with boys, 91%. If you read the book, there is this discrepancy. The girls are hit harder than the boys. And Jonathan Haidt gives reasons, and I will touch a little bit on them. Going through these charts has only one purpose. We are not here to diminish the young. No. We are here to find a solution. That's why in our churches and in our families, we are oblivious to this kind of challenges. Nobody knows what to do. Your big boy at home, or your big girl at home, you would expect that everything is nice, shiny, strong, powerful, but it's far from it. Why? And here is the answer. This chart starts in 1925, the year in which radio was invented and brought onto the market, and it ends in 2015, 10 years ago. What happened in the world from the point of view of major technological mass discoveries? Radio, 1925, it went all the way to the top, and then the color TV in mid-late 60s. In 1985, the personal computer. The internet, sometimes at the beginning of the 1990s. And then there are 2 things that point into a very specific direction. Social media in early 2000s, and then the smartphone in 2007. Those are the technological inventions that overlap with the surge in suffering. And Jonathan Haidt makes the connection. What if the smartphone, social media, is the culprit. And it is. In a way that is so unexpected, but at the end of the day, when you have all the research in front of you, you will be able to understand. And all of a sudden, your 15, 17, 20-year-old, and the way he or she goes through makes sense to you, who are my age, 50 plus, someone that, nothing touches you, from this, part of the 20th and 21st century history. We need to explain some very, very, very important terms. And I will start with two very important terms: the real world and the virtual world. If I ask my parents, do you know what the virtual world is? They have no idea. And for good reasons, right? But today, if you have no clue about that, you cannot help anyone. So what do we mean? What is it, the real world? We are talking about relationships and social interactions characterized by 4 features. Feature number 1, in the real world, everything is embodied. Let me give you details and explain what do I mean. What do we mean by that? Everything is embodied. In the real world, you talk to someone. You shake hands with someone. You interact at this 1-to-1 or 1-to, 40. Or when you are in a larger group, 1-to-100, whatever the number. You know exactly who is who. And you will do your best to evaluate and to find your place. If you are a boy, when you are 10, and you know everybody on your street, with the following, not very good thoughts, but it is the truth. You will know who is weaker than you right away, right? And you will know who is stronger than you. And that helps you in life. Don't mess up with the stronger, because, you will get in big trouble. But everyone else is, listening to you. You do life like that in an embodied way. Feature number 2. These relationships, everything that goes on in your life in the real world is synchronous. At the same time, we are here. We are talking to each other. And everyone hears the same thing at the same time in the same place. That is how the second feature of the real world is. And please do not forget this. All these four features of the real world are the ones that we need for good, solid, healthy development. When we will move to the virtual world, we'll have again 4, everyone, the opposite at every one of those, and they will not be your friends. But now they are built in you, and you will see why almost everyone with a phone-based childhood lives in anxiety. So number 2, they are synchronous. Number 3, they involve one-to-one or one-to-several communication. Do you remember that day, which repeated so many times, in which your mom told you this? You are looking at me when I'm talking to you. You remember that? Why is that so important? This is how good, solid, meaningful communication happens, right? You shake hands with someone, but that person does this. Yeah, it's sad. It's still happening today. But something is off when such a thing is unfolding. But when you shake hands and you look the other in the eye, face to face, things are good. In the real world, this is how we work. You know exactly who is who. It's so sad. I was in the situation of teaching so many classes, and those 20 people in my class, the vast majority of them had no idea who the one who is next to him or her is. Not even the name. And in my attempt to help them, I take attendance reading their names every class session. Hey, you know, he is John. She is Rachel. He is Ethan. That kind of approach. We are people coming together. This is our world, the real world. This is how you thrive through it in a digital world. So that was number 3. Number 4. Those relationships take place within communities that have a high bar for entry and for exit. This is what you mean by this. You want to be part in that church? Those are the requirements. You fulfill them, you will be accepted, you will be voted in. It's not that you just passed by and I say, oh, I want to be part of this. It is not a low bar entry. It is a high bar entry. You want to be part of something good, real, meaningful, significant. And it will be exactly the same about the exit. If you don't follow the rules and conventions, eventually you are kicked out. And the loss is significant. That's why, as you are in, you will do your best to be of help, to do your part, and you will want to continue to stay. That is how the real world is. Now let us look at the virtual world. Again, about relationships and interactions characterized by 4 features. 4 again. Those relationships are disembodied. You are on Facebook, you are on Instagram, you are on whatever other place. And you never see the other person. Yeah, you see, you know, a meme or a picture, and no one knows exactly if that picture is real or not. Yeah. Only language is used. A word here and there, most of the time an abbreviation, without no connection to something that happened or to something relevant about you as an individual person of value. Everything is disembodied. You do not know. You never met the other person. Feature number 2. They are heavily asynchronous. You post something, and somebody sees it in half an hour, sometimes instantly, if you spend your life on that platform. But you may see it after an hour. If you post something at 9 p.m., your friends from the other side of European continent will see it in the morning, right? So 8 hours behind. Do you remember the days in which, 3 or 4 of your friends sat down at 5 p.m. after the school was done in front of the house, and you said, okay, tonight we will do this. Everyone agreed, you went for it. In the virtual world, you cannot do that. Some are so far away, different time zones, different work schedules. Yeah. Feature number 3. In my view, this is the most problematic. The relationship and interactions in the virtual world involve a large number of one-to-many communications. Let me explain. In the real world, You say something to your 3 or 4 friends. You see right away the reaction of every one of them. Some will say, yeah, it's a good idea. The other will say, get out of here. No, I will not do it. And if you try to push it on me, we will solve the matter in another way. We all know. All kinds of this direct type of approaches. In the virtual world, you post something. I remember the days when I had, 3,500 friends on Facebook. I thought that I remembered the names of them, but for the vast majority of them, I had no very clear recollection of who they are now, what are they doing. This dive into unknown is one of the major factors that leads to anxiety. What if my list of friends, how many you have, 1,000, 2,000, 10,000, who knows, will say, and if your account is open access, everyone on the platform, how many billions? 2, 3, 4, depending on the platform, right? You expose yourself to billions of people, and you don't know the vast majority of them. It leads to anxiety. And this is the experience of everyone, being bullied on social media, and people being really bad and really mean, and you will say, for no reason. This is one-to-many type of communications. 10, 50 of them, but the rest of thousands. Now, number 4. They take place within communities that have a low bar for entry and exit. What was the requirement for you to be on Facebook? You needed to be baptized, have to sign the confession of faith, worship every Sunday. Nothing of that, right? You just sign in, your email, a strong password, age, phone number, and you are in. And you started some kind of a networking. Easy way in, easy way out. What is the implication of that? You can leave at any moment. There is no value. There are no roots. You have no reason to stay if somebody misbehaves, correct? Yeah. And sooner or later, somebody will misbehave. There are no exceptions. There are no exceptions. Now imagine you grew up, your parents, out of love, bought something like this when you are, let's say, should I say the age? 10, 11, 12. Yeah. And when they gave you permission, you go into those places. And that is how your childhood started. Almost entirely in the virtual world. No embodied relationships. No synchronous relationships. One to so many. Right from the start. And you are 12, you are 15. Let's say you are 18. It doesn't matter. You are still extremely, what would be the best term? Unexperienced. Yeah. Out there, you are facing a world that overwhelms you in everything. In everything. And the end result, you saw the surge in suffering, is anxiety. And your father comes home after he worked 2 shifts, And he has no idea what's wrong with you. That is our story. We need to get better at this. The point that I'm trying to make here is this. This is for the youth. But in the same way, it is for the adults. For the 50 plus, for the 40 plus, for the 30 plus people among us. Yeah. I have a phone. When I saw a mobile phone for the first time in 1995, you know, that small brick with, you know, it was like a suitcase, you know, and you walked with that. I said, that's so dumb. Why would you do that? Yeah. But now, it's this slim. I know it is convenient, and it is extremely powerful, but it stays in one of the main tables in the household for the entire day. Yeah. When I leave the house, I take it with me just, you know, to be able to communicate if needed. I did not grow up with it. It's not part of my life. But when you have a phone-based childhood, the situation is extremely, extremely different. And here is how Jonathan Haidt brought together all this. You know, the surge in suffering, the distinctions between virtual world, real world. Between 2010 and 2015, the social lives of American teens moved largely onto smartphones. And that means usually two things. Continuous access to social media. It doesn't matter what time is it. That group is always open. That church, you know, so to speak, is always open. And then online video games. Jonathan Haidt labels this situation as the great rewiring of childhood. We played with sticks and stones, and we were forged into really strong individuals. But our youth plays with intelligent phones, and they are forged into an anxious generation. That is the single largest reason for adolescent mental illness. When you go through puberty with a smartphone in your hand, you become more anxious, depressed, self-harming, and suicidal. Why? Why? The world that comes at you, the virtual world that comes at you, flattens you. You cannot take it on. Is way, way, way stronger than you will ever be, than any of us will ever be. The latest number, and this is a little bit off script, this is not in Jonathan Haidt's book, but you can find it easily somewhere else. If you ask the question, in one day, the average American, for how long is he or she exposed to media, generally speaking? The number is at least 9 hours. At least 9 hours a day. No human being can manage that. You don't have the strength, the power, the wisdom. You are just an easy prey. So you need to find ways, and this is, you know, in our last session, you know, practical solutions to this. To conquer this, because it is possible to be conquered. But we are 3 meetings behind that. We are not there yet. No other theory, Jonathan Haidt continued and say, has been able to explain why rates of anxiety and depression surged among adolescents in so many countries at the same time and in the same way. So you have the rise of social media and of the smartphone. And I will ask the question, and I will answer it next month. You have the answer in the book. How exactly does a phone-based childhood interfere with child development and produce or exacerbate mental illness? That is the million-dollar question. And Haidt answers that. I have it, but now it's not the time. It was enough for our first session. Our 37 minutes are just gone. And as you know, let me close with a lesson with objects. Do you know what this is? Let me show it to you. So this is most likely the best you can find on the market. So if I do this, I cannot hear you. Do you know people walking like that? You know? Sorry. You create your own technological bubble with something that is absolutely exquisite, technically speaking. Something like this, if this is abused, destroys you. The quality of the sound is stellar, exceptional. But if you keep this on all the time, your parents will lose you, and you will lose yourself. My last point is this. Everything that we do is not an attack on technology. We treasure the technology. But it is an attempt to help every one of us to master it. Yeah. That is how we grew up. Nothing rules your life other than the Lord. Nothing else. And now, your challenge in your generation is to master this. To make it your servant. Make it help you, not destroy you. So, 39 minutes. We are done for today. Now, the Q&A. You know, you can just, go up and ask me here, or if you are so much into texting, you know my phone number, and you can send it right there. And this is just another proof that we still use technology, and we can text. Yeah. Anyone, anything? Yes, Simona, come and help me.
Back to the four.
Yes.
First. Next time we'll have them on a slide, all four of them.
You can play with that.
Embodied, synchronous, limited, one-to-one or one-to-several, not too many, and with a high standard. If you want to stay in the group, you need to abide by whatever rules that group has. Now, please follow me for a bit now. Okay. You know that we are made in the image of God. God is Trinity. There are many ways in which this translates into what we are. One of them is this. They have individual identities. The Father is not the Son is not the Holy Spirit, and so on. However, they are in a perpetual relationship. They intertwine, they make each other. This is something that we are. I am not him, I am not her, I am myself. However, I grow within a group of people. What they are, they help make me. What I bring in, I help make them. There is an influence. And in this influence, we have that body, we have limited circle, even if many, it's still limited. We are getting instant answer or response to whatever we do, and we have rules. In the virtual world, all this is destroyed. So the way we get our identity and our relationship with other people is destroyed. When I don't know who I am and I don't know how to relate to anybody, of course I get to anxiety and so on.
No questions? That's easy then. Okay. What should I say? Thank you for coming. Our time is done. I want to say one more thing just before we go and have our fellowship and interaction. You were very punctual today. It was 6:59 and the room was not with many. And in 1 minute, 2 minutes, boom, it's filled up. Thanks very much. I will see you next month.